Hello, beautiful people. This is episode 2 of the Show Some Love podcast, which is now called Show Some Love Live. Long story, but you can search Show Some Love Live on all of your platforms. You can ask your smart speaker.
Yes.
My name's Connor.
And I'm Becky.
And together we are Another World Belfast. We have a message to show some love. And this is our podcast.
I'm always like prepped then to like speak, in the way that like Trixie and Katya do. And it's like, because it's our podcast. And
because it's our show and not yours.
Yeah, so we can say whatever we want. Well, we tend to anyway, so that's not
everything but fucker bugger.
Yeah. And sometimes that too.
And sometimes that too. How's everyone doing? The feedback from last week was unbelievable. We are happy to be the People's Podcast. Thank you for that, Seán.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we ever have a flyer made, it will be on the top of it.
Yes.
5 stars. One of our mums, probably your mum more likely.
Yeah.
And the People's Podcast from Seán. So, hello, Seán. How's it going for you?
I'm doing good, guys. Yeah.
Seán's just doing 10 things behind our camera here, but Seán's our producer here at Show Some Love.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the person behind the arse cam and the shade noises and the extra little ad libs last week, which we squealed at and everybody else loved too. So thank you so much.
The arse cam is working overtime this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
We would like to. I can actually already hear it, but I now know that you can't hear the farts.
But it does mean that if you did need to fart, then you just blame it on the
If I
chairs.
might just do one move.
Okay.
There.
Was that an actual fart though?
I don't know. I was getting it out of me. We've had a few heavy days, so it could be a fart.
Yeah.
Had a few days. I don't know why was I so full of farts last week?
I think because
remember?
we went to the wedding and then we had a really bad hangover after the wedding.
It was the spice.
It was the spice bags. That's what it
Oh my
was.
God.
They were so spicy.
The last of
Yeah.
spice bags, and
Yeah.
I don't mention it very much, but I'm celiac. For everyone that's wondering what the fuck that is, it means that I am not. I'm allergic to wheat and all sorts of things.
Yes.
And I don't think they are officially gluten free, but I had a few chips. I think
Yes.
fuck, you only had a few. They're really hot.
Yeah, burned the absolute arse off me.
Where'd you grip spice bags from?
Did you not get them?
No?
At the wedding, Connor handed me a spice bag and went, "There you go, love." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. I've been dying to try one of these." Our close personal friend Lizzo also wanted a spice bag. Do you remember there was spice bag gate? She couldn't get one.
Well, it used to be spice bags were very different. There were bags of fucking spice. Now they're actually they're chips
Like
full of
turmeric
chili,
and
all sorts of
such
stuff.
like, yeah.
But no, so probably while you were doing the sound and setting up and making sure that everyone was sorted for this lovely wedding of our friends Con and Chris,
Congratulations.
while you were working your ass off, in sort of the wee alleyway next door to the Dark Horse, there was this sort of impromptu little kitchen set up where they were giving out burgers and spice bags, and they were giving out
There was the taqueria or something like that, or taquito or something else, wasn't
one
there?
of the taco people
Yeah,
were doing
yeah.
tacos.
Yeah.
Very hot. Very hot.
And we can take a bit of spice. Like, I would put Frank's Red Hot Buffalo sauce in everything if I could. And quite often it's like maybe a wee bit too much where it doesn't really have a natural place for it. But they were some spicy
Spicy bastard.
bags.
So you didn't get one?
No, I ain't getting no spice bags.
Well, do you know what? You may also have been full of farts the next day then, so think yourself
I may
lucky.
dodge the bullet there.
It was aggressive. But talking of farts, so we were talking about that because we were talking about arse cam or arse cam.
Yeah, ours can.
Which we would love to take credit for, but we can't.
No.
Those lovely graphics were off of Seán's making last week. And then, of course, Charlotte Allen's bits that were falling down that we promised to put up this week. We didn't.
No.
We haven't yet. They're actually on the table.
Yeah.
Our girls, gays and theys and all the other bits. This week we have just kept it a little bit less busy. We're sort of minimalists.
Yeah, basically it was just that one change and we went straight to like Kardashian basics.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Like this is your confession, and you're literally putting it on the table.
Yes, exactly.
That is it.
And it's not because we were still like dying on our arses hungover yesterday as well after the amazing party that was Mince again.
Oh, it was amazing. It was very, very good. But it was also my birthday. Not that I mention it very much either. But we've now decided not to, and this is not a joke, just not to drink and not to party in that way. For a while.
Yes.
We've committed really till the end of the year.
Yeah.
There's a few big parties, so there's a few things that we really want to do. And there's some things that's nice if you're out with your friends to have a couple of Christmas. But what do you do at Christmas? Like have
An eggnog or mulled wine.
Is there egg and eggnog?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
God, look at that. 1st of November, 2nd of November, whatever date in November it is now. And we're just banging
Straight
on
into
about
it.
Christmas.
Yeah.
That's us.
Although literally it just seemed like there was a switchover on TV and all of the ads as of the 1st of November have just all gone pure Christmas.
Yeah.
You know?
I was in Edinburgh there, and we were up at the castle on Halloween, and I could literally like look down the Royal Mile and see the shops taking down all their Halloween decorations and putting up
Straight
like
into Christmas.
Christmas lights on Halloween. Still.
Well, do you know, I think at least that's a good thing, because I think last year and the year before, like Halloween, they just didn't even really do. They just went straight into Christmas from September.
Like a
so
crossover.
I'm kind of okay with that. Like, as long as they wait until the 1st of November, then kind of knock yourself out. But like last year and maybe the year before that, there was like Christmas trees being sold in
No. We one
the Range
year
or somewhere like that.
We one year were in a local shopping centre here in Belfast, and they in the unit that they'd given us, it was kind of way at the back. We were only there for a very short time, but it was way at the back, and it was beside the Range. And the Range put up their Christmas trees. I mean, like full trees, full decked, like half the shop full of Christmas stuff in August.
Yeah, August.
And that, if you're just in it for as a shopper, it's something to talk to your Auntie Mary about and how terrible it is. We're sort of getting on like that right now.
Yeah.
But it is. But it's also, if you're in every single day and you're buying a wee Coke or you're doing a wee thing in the Range, you then have to hear that music, see those lights.
It's a killer.
It's a killer.
Do you know? Like, because that's like August, September, October, November, December. That's nearly half of a year, you know? And it's just like, you're bored sick of it by the time it gets then anyway. God love anybody working in retail.
Well, Christmas this year in retail, in our store, is going to be fabulous. We are very pro Eugene Christmas in the way that does it for you.
Yes.
So you can love it or you can hate it, but if you have to interact with it, you can come and buy all your lovely bits and give back to your local community.
I sort of feel
I
like
am barely speaking today. I feel like, you know, when TMZ, after a celebrity does an interview and they're like, wow, they're losing it. They need to go back to rehab. Like, I feel that. Now, I don't have to go back to rehab, to be clear.
Yeah.
I do not have.
They wouldn't have you.
Any problems really anymore, unbelievably.
Yeah.
But I am down. I'd probably have to go for what they used to say years ago, which was for exhaustion. You know,
Burnout.
well, burnout. Yes, we're always sort of on the edge
Yeah.
of burnout, but probably have to go for like if Elizabeth Taylor had a problem with drugs, had a problem with what do they used to have problems with then?
Oh, like they would take like speed and stuff.
With
like,
speed.
Or
So
they
if
call it
Elizabeth-
the housewife's friend or something, didn't they?
Yes, so if with Quaaludes,
Yes.
you know, if she had a problem with Quaaludes and she went to the Betty Ford Centre, they wouldn't say it was for drug addiction, they would say it was for exhaustion.
Exhaustion.
Have I already said that?
Yeah. That's why I was like, what other word is there?
Yeah.
You've already got there.
Yeah, okay,
well,
sorry.
literally, you just proved the point because you are
Exsumption.
exhausted. What?
Exsumption.
Consumption?
Consumption.
None of those either. Well, at least I hope not anyway.
And somebody's going to clip you repeating yourself and
Yeah.
feel like he's lost it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like this is my Britney moment.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
if
you can't
Britney
shave your head. That's a key brand
I
asset.
know,
Is that
I've
hair?
always thought when I lose this hair, because there's no men in my family that keep their hair past really like now, like way before now. I'm now 34, and most men in my family lose their hair like 20s, like
Yeah.
early 20s. So I'm very grateful to have the hair that I have, but only now that it's become a thing, that it's now like part of our podcast logo and everything else, I might have to start wearing a wig. You know,
Although the amount of
does
people
go.
that think Connor already is wearing a wig is mad. Like we once got into like a full altercation on a flight on the way back from, where were we coming? We were going from Scotland, from Stockholm to Amsterdam.
From Sweden to
Yeah.
the Netherlands.
Yeah, they're very similar accents though. That's
It's-
a handy one.
Great. Yeah.
We were coming back and there was just that boring thing that straight men sometimes do, which is they were on a stag and they dressed the stag up as a woman, which of course is hilarious. And they were being really aggressive and really loud in the airport as well. And we
I
said something about
I think in the
about it.
airport I'd ran to the loo, or maybe I'd ran for a smoke. maybe I told you I was going to the loo, but I was actually going for a smoke. We probably should have already been on the flight.
Yeah.
And as I was running to do that, then the whole time we were in the airport, there was these really rowdy kind of blokes. And I kind of imagine Sweden as being a place where those people don't exist.
Yeah, it's
That
evolved
everyone's
past
just-
the need for that.
Yes, but
Toxic
it
masculinity.
did, and they were shouting, and everyone was sort of looking in the airport like, can you believe it? Well, as I went down for the smoke, it was running back up to get you. We're going to go and get on this flight. And they were walking down, and one of them must have been the what are they called? The
groom or the best man.
What's it called when you're out? The stag.
Yeah.
The stag was wearing, very funny, like this sort of like quite nice, like sort of Madonna, like a virgin sort of level bridal. What you call that?
Whoa, you're good at wording today.
Bridal gown.
Yes.
Dress.
Yes.
And they went, oh, yo, shout at me. And I think they said something like they did ask my opinion. It probably not with the intention of me giving the actual truth of what I thought, but they said something along the lines of, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Maybe like, because they were like, do you think this is sexy or whatever? And I was like, actually, this isn't funny anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, we're sort of past that, the whole like man dresses as woman equals funny, meaning that women are, I don't know, lesser,
An object
or
of
that,
humour.
yeah, that what they have to wear isn't quite worth it or up to the same value as what you do. It's just gone. I didn't give that explanation, but it was just like, this, it's really not funny anymore. Like, maybe you shouldn't do it. And then, of course, when we got onto the flight, they got onto the flight.
Yeah.
Dread.
Yeah.
Really bad. But
Yeah.
it was part of that altercation because they were coming on. And like, we're not tights or nothing, but they were really, weren't the dread.
They were awful. They were also plastered,
Yeah.
and getting on the flight and just being really rowdy and getting on. You didn't do it. I did. Like I said to the air steward whenever I got on, said, just FYI, that group behind us are really drunk and really, not very pleasant. And so she said, oh, we'll keep an eye on them, don't worry. And then as they were getting on, they said something to you as well, again.
I think it's that thing people do within like an enclosed space or a space where you have to be better behaved. And it was some sort of like, I think I heard, that's not funny anymore.
Yeah. They were
And I
pretty...
said, excuse me, do you have something to say to me? And they all sort of stopped. And I says, yeah, usins. And the whole of this like Swedish, very polite flight turned and looked at me. And I says, if you've got something to say to me, fucking, I don't think it's swore. I think in those moments I kind of train myself not to, because you lose.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, if you've got something to say to me, say it to me. I was like, be a big enough lad that you can say it to my face. And it started this
Then
sort
homophobia
of
started.
unbelievable level of just one tension from the crew and the flight, because I was given, I'm going to fucking kick off here vibes.
Yeah.
And they then did this something to do with like taking it up the hole, or is it because you're queer or something?
Yeah.
Just all of it was dreadful. In fact, there was a girl that was sitting beside us that we ended up meeting and going into Amsterdam with.
Yeah,
she was very
she was
sweet.
lovely.
She was American. She was on like a sort of gap year thing, having the best time, traveling, doing Europe. And even they got the whole way up. And like, you can see someone's awkward and a wee bit frightened on a flight if it's about to kick off. And especially when this group of lads is coming, it could really like get physical.
Mm-hmm.
And they had said something about taking it up the hole or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she had turned and says, well, what's fucking wrong with that? And
Yeah.
I was just like,
This
great.
like wee girl who was like in her early 20s, traveling by herself, and was just like, you could sort of see her just like rolled out sleeves and just being like, no, I'm not taking that because you shouldn't have to take it. And she sort of like came to
Yeah.
our defense. Not that we needed defending, but just she wanted to sort of show solidarity, like to be like, it's not just you guys, you're actually in the right here. And but whenever we got off the flight, and then they followed us through the airport, and one of their main, we had the conversation with them, but one of their main ways that they were trying to defend themselves was by saying that they thought that, well, why is Connor challenging that person wearing a wig whenever they're also wearing a wig? And Connor's like, what? You're wearing a wig. And he's like, I'm not. Took off his hat and like went like this. And they're like, and they were genuinely shocked. They fully assumed that Connor was wearing a wig, and that happens a lot.
It comes down to the way that we kind of sometimes all of the time go about the world, and we try to really follow the ideas of like radical honesty or radical candor, which is you don't have to put yourself into a situation. Often it's just none of your fucking business, and if no one is being directly harmed in that situation, maybe it's not your space, especially as someone who has a penis, to stand up and say, actually, that's not okay for women. That's not where we are right now. But if you're asked, you're going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And then when that turns into something else, I think often in that situation where it's like queer people and sort of stereotypical straight people, and straight people who are sort of aggressively so, it's often expected that you will just do what they expect, I would imagine, women to do.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like kind of carried away. It's men like that in situations like that kind of sometimes forget that you are you're a fully grown fucking adult. And they might have grown up in, I don't know, whatever dangerous suburb of Stockholm, but like, I'm from fucking Belfast City. If you want it, we'll have it. If you want to do it on a flight, we'll do it on a fucking flight.
Yeah.
You know.
It's interesting that you say like the stuff about like I thought Sweden had evolved past us. Like, I had a thing like that a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, and I saw somebody like chiming in on something to do with here. It was like some article here, and it was like, you know, loads of people underneath were going like, fuck all this woke nonsense sort of thing, right? And like this guy with like a tick, you know, like, and it was like Senator something. And I was like, who the fuck's this? So you ever get those moments where like you see somebody commenting on something and you're automatically like, who the fuck
every
is
single
this?
day?
Yeah.
So you start going in like and seeing who they are. And I went on it and it was like some fucking politician from Norway. And I was going, oh, you've had to try really hard to be a cunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You've had all of the opportunities that we can ask for.
like, oh, I didn't think.
Well, I suppose it exists everywhere.
Exactly.
Though.
And that's like, not to put down like the, you know, the hardship that some people in Norway may face or whatever, but like fucking, you think, Norway, I mean, you've nothing to fucking complain about. Like, why do you need to like be an ultra right wing fucking conservative?
But then it wasn't it Norway. This has got really geopolitical, and I
I know
love
what's going on.
it. No, but was it not Norway where wasn't it Norway where they had that mass shooting?
Yeah.
They had it on that island. You know, it was like a kids kind of like political summer camp or something.
Yeah.
So there's clearly tensions like that kind of everywhere.
But the thing is, like, because a lot of society is carved up and divided by religious extremism, you know, like, let's face it, like, it's kind of the root of all evil, you know, and in the world, and always has been. So there isn't really any country that can escape that. So therefore, there's always going to be that right-wing behaviour. There's always going to be people who want to use a means to control other people and to assert what they believe is the way to be, you know, on others. So it's kind of like unavoidable, but it does become like unforgivable whenever there's so much less tension or issue.
When you're privileged enough to have the education system that you have, when you've got the health service that you have, when you have universal basic income in Norway, whenever you can access that like massive amount of wealth in a sort of social democracy leaning space, then there's probably less an excuse for it.
But like, but whether it's online or in person, like, I think for us, like, it's one of the things, like, it's a real trigger where people will say like, oh, well, why don't you just show some love? And our answer generally to that is, well, why don't you just like fuck off, you know? Because show some love for us has always meant about standing up for yourself and standing up for other people as well. You know, it's like, if you've got a voice, if you've got a platform, you should use it. And if that means that, like, you know, we've had countless instances where we have, and some people may say, done a full Karen, others may say stood up for what's right. And, you know, I can even think of a time being in Subway and hearing some arseholes behind the counter talking about, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, no, you said something about, is there no women work here? And like, in a sort
there
of,
never is.
yeah. And then they said something about, oh, such and such identifies as a woman, and we're like, oh no, you did not.
It did start off as sort of a joke, you know, where we're like bantering back and forward. They were like kind of those boys that you kind of just imagine you could have had that crack with, but it's just whenever someone does overstep the mark, and you can see then the fairly confident queers just go, that's not fucking funny.
Yeah, we're not having that, and you represent a big brand.
And actually, the reply to that is, oh, I didn't realise that. Never thought of it that way. What do you want in your sandwich?
And the manager did.
Yeah, but often it's wow, I'm really not doing my words today. Oh my God. But often there is an inability to take on the information and to process that, recognise that you were wrong, maybe vocalise that, and then move forward. You know, it's just like, if we could just get that, then it would be so much easier.
Well, it's like there's three things, like whether we are speaking to volunteers, whether we're doing a talk or a panel or doing like some sort of an interview, we'll talk about three things that have kind of changed how we communicate in the world. And if everybody knew how to embrace these three things, which are so simple, the world would just be a better place. And one of them is the ability to say, I don't know the answer to that. and therefore being open to hearing a new perspective or a different answer.
And that's fine.
Yeah. Another one is to say, I'm really sorry I got that wrong, or I made a mistake, because we all do. And the sooner we could all say like, oh, I'm really sorry I fucked up there, whatever. And then the other one is to say, so what did I say already? I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry I got that wrong. And can you help me? You know, like there's so many people that are like in this sort of perfectionism fear space to be able to like have to prove themselves in some way, and not to be able to actually reach out and go, do you know what, either I've bitten off more than I can chew, or I've made a mistake. Can you help me? Is a much better way of being able to like, than just like avoiding the issue, which I think happens too much with people. They'll just sort of like pretend it didn't happen and then just ghost you. Do you know?
But I think we all cause offense. Not always like intentionally. We always cause offense to different people, like in inadvertent ways. And I think the sooner we can, you know, own up to that, and the sooner that the people who do prefer, you know, if you like use other language or whatever, the sooner we get to the point where we can just be honest with each other and say that, the sooner learning can happen.
Yeah. Watched a really lovely TED talk the other day about, as Connor mentioned earlier, about radical candour. And we'll try and put a wee link below to the video, because it's something that we've embraced for a long time. And it's been able to speak honestly to people, but also with care. Do you know? And if we're not honest with people, then we're not doing anybody any favours. You know, if we try and sort of pussyfoot around things and don't give people feedback, how can anybody get better? But there's so many people that just cannot take it. And sadly, here in this country, it's a bigger swathe of people can't take it, because we don't necessarily have the more progressive workplaces and things where that type of conversation is just like a natural way of being.
You in our you know, twin life, Becky is the with care person. So often my intention is not to hurt someone. My intention is to be honest. It's part of my recovery, and it's part of protecting my mental health. It's part of having integrity with myself and my work, and especially the work that we're doing is very important. But for all that my intention is to be honest, often the bit that I haven't quite got yet is to be able to put that across in a way that isn't
aggressive
or isn't aggressive. Yeah, because I'm like, well, these are just the facts. I'm just telling you the truth. You know, you created the facts, you created the situation. I'm just telling you how I see it and how maybe the world sees it. And often that is savage. It's just I then have to, the one thing that I've in recent years tried to do is like repeat that back to myself, like give myself a little moment to hopefully before to sort of like plan a bit more about what you're going to say, and then kind of have that conversation with myself, because I know that if I was to hear some of the stuff that came out of my mouth, I would be offended. You know, I'd be raging, and then often for years I would go along with the kind of radical honesty. I would get it out there, and then I would be surprised. I'm like, really? Like, because it's facts are facts. This is what happened. But then I have to think to myself, God, if someone give me those facts, I would give it up.
Yeah, there's a difference between being honest and just like kind of being a bit of an asshole to somebody. You know, it's like you can still deliver the same message that helps somebody know what went wrong, but by also giving an opportunity to fix it and to say, you know, what the good things were alongside that and all the rest of it too. But I suppose that's just
You're
what
very good at that.
The years of training in Diageo kind of taught me, because I received feedback that way and I really appreciated it. So for years, like the first couple of years of being there, like I hated those like personal development sessions. After a while, you come to really crave them, because yes, you may hear some tough things of things that you could have done better, things that you need to work on. But alongside that, what you're also hearing is like the things that you really excelled in, and the things, you know, Diageo was very good at like they didn't talk about strengths and weaknesses. They talked about strengths and development areas, you know, but then it wasn't all about like, oh, you have to push your development areas to get better in them. It was there was quite a nuanced, mature understanding that actually, what about we just prefer to leverage your strengths rather than trying to make you and force you down bits that you're not so good at, unless those not so good at bits are like an essential part of the job. You know, you need to kind of, if you're working in governance or compliance, you need to be detail oriented, you know, stuff like that. But then there was also a route for you to change into something else, you know.
To be clear, we're not now, after one episode, we have not become one of those or become one of those podcasts that will give you all the advice, but then want to sell you some sort of something.
There's not
at
like
the
a
end
vitamin
here.
supplement coming along
No,
afterwards.
there's not a vitamin supplement. We're not going to speak to fucking Bob Proctor.
No.
We're not going to sell you a course that you don't fucking need, and we're not going to ask you to sell it to your friends and give away everything you've ever saved in your life.
Yeah.
Or testicle shavers, or
Oh
Yeah.
no, we're not
I mean,
for that.
in fairness, if they want to give us some money.
Oh no, if you want it, we're never going to bitch the back of the Manscaped, and I'd rather you didn't, Sean. We're looking. I actually think when I watch like when I watch the other podcasts out there that talk about it, I think to myself how I could sell the lube, how I could sell the lawnmower, because I have really detailed stories. I with ex-boyfriends used to like, I used to be a hairdresser years ago, and I used to scissor over a comb, which is just like, well, I suppose it's scissor over a comb, and so it's just like it's creating a gradient. You know, like someone has their, what do you call that? The
skin fade.
The skin fade.
Yeah.
I used to do that to cocks. So you would get the idea of a
So
bush
talented.
and the idea of sort of pubes, but also with the biggest penis that you could possibly make happen, sort of visually.
Yeah.
So it's
like
quite
proportionising.
really quite close to the penis itself, and then as you go up, you get a bit more bushy.
It's
You know,
like
it's more
creating
hygienic as well.
perspective. Do you know? It's like that. What is it? Disney does it, like the false perspective things. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
like Tom Cruise in movies.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
Like the
It's
Cuban
forced
heels of penises.
Yes. But no, so we're not. But
There we are. We're back again.
but for all that we're here to share some of our experiences. We will not be that, and I couldn't agree more vehemently and strongly that actually often those people are selling you something that either doesn't exist,
Yeah.
or that you don't need to be sold. They say you should always question. You should always question the
Advice of people that try to sell you it.
Yes.
It's a Baz Luhrmann thing, isn't it? You know,
Surely-
and be kind to people that dispense it freely.
because it's really it's a Buddhist principle. It's a lot of world religions have this principle actually about how you will bring together the information, how you will gather that in your journey, and once you find a place of say enlightenment, for example, it is your job to then disperse that into the world. That shouldn't come with a paywall,
Yeah.
or with any other wall.
Yeah.
We shouldn't gatekeep that. Once you have that information, it's the meaning of life is to spread
Share
that
it.
and share it and put it out there
Yeah.
and make other people's lives better.
Yeah, and while we're here, I've just got to say, I think like life coaching is one of the fucking douchiest things I've ever seen in my life. Unless it's something about like somebody needs a wee bit of. How are you trying to fix my fringe?
No, you've got to fly.
Oh, where?
It was right in the fringe.
Oh, right.
So I was gonna
Slap me in the face.
Yeah.
No, but like I get how maybe some people need help with like how do I get some business support, or how do I like manage my time better? All of those types of things I kind of get. But like if somebody's trying to sell life coaching skills, you better be fucking sure that your life is in good order, because what you're selling is your own skills to manage yourself.
Like
do you
that,
know what I mean?
there's that one where I think they've sort of found the balance is that guy from Dragon's Den.
Oh yeah, Stephen Bartlett.
Really immensely successful.
Yeah.
Selling very practical kind of lessons on how you can make your life a little bit better.
Yeah.
Less of a focus on being rich, on having stuff, and more about feeling fulfilled and making sure your mental health and state is in
Yeah.
a place where you can achieve that.
Yeah.
That's different.
But
you know?
that's-
There's been a massive rise in the past lot of years with like these self-help podcasts,
Yeah.
and a rise in like male chauvinism.
yeah.
Yes.
Like, hasn't there? And I've noticed that as a youth worker as well, working with like young men, I've noticed like people talking about Andrew Tate and
Yeah.
all these characters where it's like success is defined by Lamborghinis
Yeah.
and fucking swimsuit models,
Yeah.
and
Danger.
and it is so scary that like young men have these idols now that they're looking up to, and it's like the idea's been put forward. It's just like you think that things evolve, but it's a trend like that. It just drags society back again.
It's so much of it comes back to it, but it's capitalism.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're trying to
And-
sell a false dream that's
and the
really
patriarchy.
unattainable. You know, and if you can never attain it, you will continue to spend to do that.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you fail at it, it's not because you have failed. it's not because of the program. It's because you have not worked hard enough.
Yeah.
And it's just the lie that we've been told forever, that if you work hard enough, you can make it. And often for a lot of people, it's just an impossibility.
Yeah.
I'm waking up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, the grind.
Yeah,
You know?
Grind never
culture.
stops, bro.
Yeah. Hashtag boss babe.
I mean, we're all talking. When we talk about stuff like that, because we'll talk about that in the world, and then we live our lives just like we are just another world is our baby, and it's kind of all we do.
But that's our choice.
Yeah.
And we are like not exactly like on the grind trying to sell people loads of stuff so that we can make loads of money. Like,
No.
it's our life is our passion and our work is our passion, and it all, we're a couple, so therefore we're always talking about it. Our time off and our time working is kind of mixed, and I think it is kind of a different thing. We wouldn't expect somebody to work like that for a wage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You know what? I love your organisation because, see, actually writing we're having problems getting the audio version last weekend, and it was because we needed to write a description for what Another World is, what Show Some Love is, and just like
You did a
describe
really
what
good
the
job.
podcast was about. Was that okay?
Yeah.
it was
it was
great. You did
really
it better
good.
than we could.
But I was
honestly.
I was going like, I mean, what is it? Because it's like, it's creative, it's charitable, it's like, it's hard to sort of sum up what you do, but
it's
like,
complicated.
Yeah.
but when it's a charity and stuff like that, it's like you're making something,
Yeah.
at the same time as like, so it's really cool. Like.
thank you,
I
Jeremy.
often think you did a really good job of describing it, and often people who are looking from the outside and only have heard a wee bit of the story do a much better job at being able to sort of separate all of the madness and put it together in a collection of words.
It's a lot of stuff.
I think so. I think what we need is like some real wanky sort of like description of how we bring communities together and how I don't know. I know that there's like an arts council funding description that would probably sum us up well. But we would run away from that.
Yeah, well, that will come, and like we're currently under media embargo, so we can't talk about what we've got coming for next year yet. But we've dropped some breadcrumbs there, and we've been dropping breadcrumbs for quite a while.
Yeah.
But soon we hope we'll be able to talk about it next week. But as of next week, our plans for 2024 should get much more succinct. Although I say that, realising that next week isn't that far away. So it might be the week after, but it will be soon. We've been promised we can talk about it soon.
Yeah, we are under embargo, which sounds very... doesn't it
I
sound
kind of
so
like
fancy?
it. Yeah.
Pro.
Yeah.
And I think you are very pro. I actually think it's something that like a lot of creatives and stuff struggle with. Here is like, the aspect that you guys seem to be like so good at is like creating like professional partnerships and doing collaborations that really solidify like your status as an organization. Like, how do you guys go about doing that and making that happen?
Well, I suppose one of the things that is one of the values that we hold very close is excellence, and being accessible. So we want to make sure that, we are not too cool for school. There's a lot of people in...
We didn't give Seán that question.
Yeah, but it was a good one. Thank you. but there's a lot of...
question 6 now.
Oh, I love
Thank
it.
you.
But there's a lot of arts organisations that are a bit cool for school. There's a lot of creative people that are kind of like... maybe it comes out of fear. I think most things that have like standoffishness attached to them
And, like,
come out of
gatekeeping.
fear. Yes, gatekeeping.
Very that.
We have personally experienced gatekeeping from arts organisations. Like, we've literally been told that we are not artists multiple times before. But like, whatever. Like, we're also very good at not internalising or personalising those things, because often people speak to their own inadequacies rather than actually it being really anything to do with you. But like, we really just always have tried to make a point of sharing any platform that we've got, because we know that like we're all stronger when we work together. So we will sort of look for organisations that maybe will speak to a section of the community that we haven't yet spoken to, or that maybe will tie up with our brand, for example. Like, we are very, very excited that very soon we'll be able to launch a new partnership that we have coming up in the city centre. Which again, we're not under embargo for that. We just want to make sure that we launch it in the right
No,
way.
we'll just give it the full razzle dazzle. But it's also then it's knowledge like that.
Yeah.
It's knowing that for all that we could just spunk it out right now and just say what that is. We want to get great pictures.
Yeah.
We want to show people. We maybe want to do a little bit of press and talk about that relationship.
Yeah.
We want to make sure with that amazing group that we're going to partner with that it's meaningful.
Yeah.
That it isn't just us standing there in front of the camera, maybe getting a few checks a couple of times a year and then going on with their business. It's about doing something that actually connects with the community, connects with theirs, helps us to, like you're saying, sort of, like you were saying about kind of how we align with brands and how that, I forget what the words was, were you used?
Like, to collaborate is like sort of solidify like your professionalism and your reputation.
That.
Yeah.
It's that though. It's seeing that actually for us right now with the shop, for example, we have a charity shop. We call it a charity shop on steroids. We try to make sure that the stuff that's in it is amazing. It reads like one of the biggest compliments we can get is when someone comes in and they go, "Oh," or you tell them. Actually, you have to say, "Oh, well, we're a charity shop and we do this, and the money that we make here helps to help the local community." And often the best thing that I can hear in there is, "Oh, that's what this is. These are all secondhand because the shop looks amazing. All the hangers match. The stock is amazing. The product that we put out is to a really high level. It's because of what you mentioned too, and we just sort of we sort of talk about it in passing because it's just part of our language. But it's unusual for a local community organisation to talk about their brand. To put importance on that and not to feel like complete wankers saying that either, because we know that it's really important that one, the public want to align with us and they want to align their what they would call now like their personal brand with us and our message and everything that sits behind it, but then also with the other people maybe within the business sector that we collaborate with and work with. They're interested, one, in helping the local community, but two, also in working with people that kind of get it and will manage their hard work and their multi-million pound projects. Sometimes manage that with the care that it needs. It's sort of like it's the little niche that it only really exists in places like London, in places like Melbourne, and in places like Berlin. We would often love someone that's really quite similar to us to kind of like check ourselves against. Sort of go, oh, we're like this and we're doing this and we could do this different. We often can't find that, and we've worked really quite hard actually to make sure that it's as authentic as it can be and that it makes sense.
That's something actually as well. In that, how do you maintain like the integrity like of the brand when you're collaborating with? How do you know that a partnership is going to work and that they're going to respect everything that you stand for as a brand? Because I've been part of like collectives and stuff before where it's been like, you know, you can't get funding because they're going to tell you to do this that way. You can't be sponsored by this brand because it represents this thing that doesn't align with our beliefs, you know. So what goes into sort of assessing that?
Well, we both have sort of professional backgrounds. Before we came into this sector, we did loads of research. You know, we spent our first couple of years like just listening, doing very, very practical stuff to get things that charities needed and delivering it to them, but then listening and having lots of conversations at the same time. But we say no to a lot of stuff. You know, we'll be offered things, we'll be even things that people will like bring us and say, oh, well, maybe you could like do a wee raffle or something like that. And we'll say, thank you very much. And the stuff will go somewhere and it will get used. But we are very, very fastidious about what we say yes to and no to, and who we'll work with and who we won't work with. We're also kind of are very aware of the sector and what people's rights are and what they should be. And also we very much are aware of how other people manage their brands at the same time. So we don't do anything without conversations happening, without actually like, you know, sitting down and making sure that we're all singing off the same plate. And that sometimes it's just those first conversations that make you go, oh no, I've got a bad feeling about these guys. No, these are dodgy. They're trying to use us to charity wash what they're doing. So no, we're not going to go anywhere near that. Connor also has like what we now understand as to be like the ADHD brain / bit of hypervigilism and loads of other stuff. But Connor's instinct is second to none. Connor can smell somebody who has an ulterior bullshit radar, an ulterior motive. Like he can detect it a mile off.
I think people detect a detector off that. Shady can't know that.
Yeah.
And it kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
And often I won't say it out loud, but I know the very couple that we're thinking of.
Yeah.
Because it was when we pinpointed it. But we walked out of this place. I don't want to say anything else about the place.
No.
But it ended up like, I mean, these people went down like a fucking fireball in terms of like unison and staff and abuse and all this kind of stuff. But we went to go meet with them. They were dying to do something sort of somewhat charitable and really wash their image.
And they convinced me.
Oh, you were
That was the thing. I bought it.
And I didn't actually know what it was, but we walked out and I says, do you know, well, you walk out and get around the corner.
Yeah.
Get into the car because somebody will know someone that's just that knows you've just come out of that meeting. But we got into the car and I remember sitting and just going, there's something I don't know what it is, but we have a rule where if one of us vetoes something, we're out. So that could be a partnership, it could be a project coming up, it could be any of that. So in the car that day, I was sort of, it's not very often that we use it, but I was using that to say, actually, there's something off.
And there's even a more sort of gentle way with that. We're both just very much like, if we're not both into something, we don't do it. And from the beginning, that was how we've always made it work, you know. And that was one of the first times I remember, because Connor could also be a wee bit maybe more harsh than I would be in terms of how they would judge something or how they would make an assessment. I suppose that is judging. But like, sometimes I'll be able to say, give it one more shot. Let's just, you know, and we'll do that. And sometimes it just takes that extra shot for Connor to be like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Other times it's just like, no, they were right. But on this occasion, this was one of the first times that I just went, okay, I don't get it, but I trust you. So we'll not take it any further. We'll not do anything else. And since then, like, we've leaned more into that, trusting our instincts about people, but it's meeting people face to face, seeing the whites of their eyes, understanding what their motivations are, and seeing if they're a good person and their motivations are not, like, they don't have to be purely altruistic as well. Their motivations could also be, listen, I'm dying here. Like, I just really need a bit of help with a bit of promotion. And I thought if I did something, you know, charitable, give us that. Like, because we'll help you then. Yeah. Like, but that's back to, can you help me? You know, it's if somebody can actually say and just be honest. Yeah. Honesty is one of the things that attracts us the most. Even if what somebody's being honest about is like a failing or a fear or whatever, we're down to help that out.
It's where there's what do we call that? It's like an exchange. It's where there's mutual benefit.
Mutual benefit.
If we can find that, often we're in a space where people want to help. And it is genuine, but then they step so far away from the fact that there's any benefit from them. It makes me smell a rat. That it's like, oh no! I just love the community, and it's like, well, you do also run a cafe, you know, or you do also do whatever else you do, and I would rather that you came with that honesty to say, we would love to do a Christmas collection. It'd be really good to get on your social media. We would love you to. Now, we're not going to get into the space of we need a few posts a week. You can go and fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying hard here. We are a sole trader and we're trying to turn it out. We are community focused. And you can see that maybe on their stuff, you know, that they do really care. But this is the benefit for me. I would much actually rather hear that. The same goes for, like, not just the business sector, but the charity sector. The third sector, and you maybe know a wee bit from your experience too, but attracts nutters, just complete crazy. Look at people like, now this isn't Belfast specific, but look at people like Jimmy Savile, who were specifically attracted to charity washing their image,
vulnerable people,
because they were a fucking pedo, because they were a bully, because their old life and their reputation didn't quite match up to who they want to be. And there's lots of people here in the charity sector who have had a really hard time, have been a fucking nightmare, have maybe had their own issues and are trying to get on top of that. Hello, I'm one of those people that are stepping into it and doing more in a place where there is mutual benefit, where yes, it will benefit the community, but it will also help to benefit your soul and your life and your outlook and your hope and everything else. But then there's others that just will use it as a bit of a veil to, one, get closer to vulnerable people, but two, that either that's people they're working directly with, or to do that within their community, because they're like, don't worry, I'm such and such, you know, I run a wee whatever project. You know,
there's some politicians like that in this city.
Oh,
do you know, like that? You know, on one hand, you could look at it that, they're doing something very practical, you know, because they really care. And I think that's just part of the problem with how our voting system works and things as well, is the fact that, you know, the cycles that we go into is that people are always punting for the next votes, and they're always trying to get the votes in, rather than thinking about long-term sustainable change that communities actually need. But yeah,
I don't need you as a politician to have your name on your food bank. I just don't need that. I don't think the community needs to know that. I don't think the community values that, or there is any community benefit to that. I think the only thing that benefits is your ego, and we can see it. That goes for a specific politician, but it goes for so many that will stand and shake hands and get the pictures and do the thing and then fuck away off. They won't reply to your messages. And it's like, well, actually, there has to be a give and take. And if you're big enough, if you have a big enough image and you can bring the press and you can really tell our story, if you're the one that is going to take up the time on UTV News to talk about whatever it is, if you're going to do that in a professional way and get to share our message, then go for it. Let's do that. Let's collaborate. But again, it comes to honesty. It comes down to a politician that goes, actually, I'm really interested in talking with this part of our community. And that's a part of the community that we work with, that you work with. And I can see you're really struggling, maybe, or I can see that you need help with this campaign. Can I help you with that? And we can find a place where we're helping each other and we're helping the community at the same time. Then we can do that.
Yeah, there's also so many really, really good people in the community, so many really good politicians who do amazing work, but they don't necessarily shout about every single bit of it on social media. There's also there's the Kate Nichols of the world. I always want to mention Kate because I think she's really genuinely a wonderful person who has just been doing so much. I think also Tina, that was the last two mayors. I think Ryan Murphy's doing a great job as well. Like, God love him, marching pride and then going on his honeymoon the next day.
We did tell, I don't know if we've already said this out loud on a podcast, but we did tell Ryan Murphy when we met them at the lunch of the Belfast Mila, that they were standing with Kate, who was an old mayor, and we were just running about doing our social media thing where we're dressed like nutters, where we're doing the thing where we're like, getting our shots and then doing a runner after this kind of colourful, crazy, mad event, and they were standing outside, and I rocked up.
I think it was like your first time meeting him as well.
Put my arm on Kate's shoulder and said, "Do you know what, Ryan?" And they were like in the middle of a conversation, and he sort of turned and was like, "Yes." I says, "We prefer our mayors with fannies, And I swear, I'm so glad that Kate was there, though.
And she gets our humour,
laugh,
and she knows,
and she was able to then send the signal to him, like, these people are safe.
Yeah.
I know they present as crazy people.
Yeah.
But they are safe, and they mean well.
Yeah. But he took it well.
I think he did.
That bullshit meter thing that you say is like, when someone detects that you have a bullshit meter, then they like immediately turn off, because there's nothing better than seeing that, though. There's nothing better than seeing someone go, shit, the jig is up. You know what I mean?
Totally.
They'll either turn off and do a runner.
Nasty.
Yeah, they'll either turn off and do a runner, or they'll get nasty. You'll become everything that they are.
Like we're like just assholes that like have a vanity project, and
but when you break that down and really look at the work of maybe those people that are running projects, there isn't much going on. And so much of what it happens, not just in the third sector, it happens in sort of family dynamics. Often the thing that's being thrown at you is the thing that they are. It's just it's actually something to be really aware of, even just in your life. It's a good way to kind of like look what you're saying out loud and go, is that me? Is that something that I have to do the work on? Because often it is. It's a really good way to kind of to work that out.
And I'm sorry I keep digging deeper into all this, but it just really intrigues me, like all like the community sector stuff and all. But like, it actually scares a lot of organisations to get involved in those type of partnerships too, because then it's like you're going, oh, I'm a sellout now. I mean, look at all like the stuff around like it's a big meme around like pride, isn't it? Like that, you know, just because your vodka has a fucking rainbow flag on it doesn't mean that you're a fucking ally now or something. Totally. You know, that sort of thing. So I would say a lot of organisations are afraid to make those partnerships because it's like, you know, are you going to get labelled as this, that, or the other?
Yeah.
It's like that Bud Light thing that happened, you know, where they were strongly advocating for the trans community, and then they faced a big backlash over it, and people were burning beer.
But it's remembering that the fear comes from the far right. The fear is, I think, a construct of what they would like to categorise the caricature they would make of the left, of this like, oh, you can't say nothing, you know, they're too woke to joke, you know, that you wouldn't know what to say, they're offended by everything, they're snowflakes. And actually, when you get down to it, we people that are marginalised, people who are on the left, are people, and they're so often up just for a conversation. It's different with some of the big charities. You can't really reach out to Stonewall on Instagram or TikTok, but you can reach out to us and say, I really want to do something. Because people know it's all about intention. You can feel that even over a message. But just to say, I work for this company, we're hoping to do something, we don't really know where to start, and we don't want to be accused of pinkwashing. There's just honesty straight out. There's the thing. What can we do to be of assistance to your community at this time? Because it's what we want to do. We want to send the signal to our staff and to our customers and whoever else that we're not fucking dickheads. Yeah. And to that you can say, well, for us, we would say, well, we do talks over Pride, so we'll maybe come in and speak. We'll have like a Pride breakfast. That'd be great. You can give us a couple of grand. We need tampons or whatever else we're collecting at that time. Why don't we start a collection in your workplace? We do whatever else. You know, we sell candles as merch if you wanted to buy them, or some T-shirts to give to people as prizes for not being homophobic, then do that. You know, there's lots of ways to do that and make it meaningful for them then to go back to that hater online, because you'll always get someone that's just like, well, you know, you're not you aren't 100% gay or anything, so what are you getting on like this for? You know, to go back to them and say, well, actually we have consulted it and we've tried our best. You know, as long as you're trying your best, I don't think anyone can really argue with it.
And I sort of even mean it like the other way about, like community organisations are afraid to partner up and like make those like sort of meaningful partnerships because they're afraid of what their followers, their own community might say, like against trying something like that. It's a big risk.
It is, but like, you know, from a marketing place, you know, one of the reasons why big brands do it, and big brands can be some of the most effective, and we can talk about like tokenized to normalized. There is a lot of truth in that. Sometimes it is, you know, so 10 years ago you wouldn't have seen that many same-sex couples in advertising. Now it's fairly commonplace, and you still get the people challenging it, but it's by seeing it in advertising. It's by seeing it on your favourite soap. It's by seeing, you know, like a trans character, or actually, you know, not that long ago, you know, that more characters of colour, you know, like it's that normalisation from things like TV and advertising. It's actually a really powerful tool. So like people know that. Also the advertisers understand that actually, you know, the tensions and the chat is clickbaity, you know, and it sells eyes to them. So they're not really afraid of that. The recent, that Bud Light thing that happened, actually, I was really quite surprised by, because normally those big brands like actually get that, understand it, and kind of court it a little bit. But on a very, very local sense, like I think it's kind of more important than ever that people do, you know, because I love that metaphor that talks about, you know, everybody says now, oh, everybody now is queer or they have ADHD, you know, it's a trend, these things. And it's just like, well, there's a lovely metaphor about like the number of people even like 50 years ago that were left-handed. You know, it was like a tiny, tiny percentage of people that were left-handed, because if you picked up a pen and tried to write with your left hand, you were hit with a ruler. Do you know, at school, you were told you were wrong for doing it. Yeah. So whenever we stopped doing that, all of a sudden the people that were left-handed like came out as being left-handed, and now it's like 15 or something % more than it was before, because socially it became acceptable. And it's the same thing, you know, we're moving much more towards like, and you can see the demographics with younger people. Now younger people are much more aware of the looseness of gender, you know, how you can be trans, or you can be non-binary, or you can be cisgendered, and you can wear whatever the hell you want, and you can exist within whatever dimension that is. And the only problem is what other people put on you. Do you know what I mean? And so switched on parents are realising that actually the most important thing is that your kid is happy, and that their mental health is in a good place, and that they're not feeling othered or different or whatever. Now, your experience of going to school was horrific, as like the gay kid called Connor in Carrot Grammar, which, you know, there's so many.
The gay sort of chubby kid called Connor in Carrickfergus, and then before that in Dundonald, sort of top ranking sort of most Protestant places in the country. So, and
now you get like documentaries made about, you know, that kid Jamie that they made the documentary about, and the school, it was probably about 5 years ago, the school wouldn't let.
What one?
It's a documentary about a kid that their name was Jamie. Did drag.
Everybody's talking about Jamie.
And then they did the fucking musical about it.
Yeah. And the kid wanted to go to the school formal in a dress. The school said no. And so basically the whole school, the sixth form or whatever that was going on to the formal said, well, we're not going in if they're not going in. So, there's the solidarity that exists now. The queer kids are popular. Now.
Like Spartacus moment.
Exactly.
But
And
they wouldn't have dreamt that years ago. It wouldn't have existed.
Yeah, and that's where, the things like Drag Race, becoming part of like popular culture, that becoming like is kind of changing the world. And it's why it's really important that on a very hyper local level, like organisations like ours, we are not trying to be different. We just are different because we're us and we're founder led and we're queer and we're all of these things.
Because we came from the creative industry rather than from the kind of the charity sector route.
Yeah.
It's not like this is the way it's done around here. We're just doing what we think is right and what we've asked the community. We're responding to community needs.
Yeah, exactly.
In the schools now, it's like if you're like, it's so different than even when I was going to school. That like.
Which was not that long ago, let's face it.
Which now, like, if someone is being homophobic or transphobic or like racist or xenophobic or whatever, it's like they're like the weird kid.
Yeah, totally.
It's like
not that long ago, I was going to school. I'm 34, and I went to Carrickfergus Grammar School. Hello, and when I came out, I originally came out. Well, I never really came out. I was a very, very queer kid. But when I first kind of really started to say that out loud, I remember there was lots of issues in and around school and bullying from pupils and from teachers. And I remember this also happened to me in primary school, but and it's a massive trigger for me now as an adult. But I remember at the time them telling me it was essentially my fault and that maybe I should just be less camp and maybe I should just be less myself. And often I'm much more myself now. Then I was actually much, much more camp, but it was almost it's because
it was just a phase.
No,
Wasn't
but
right?
it's almost as like a coping mechanism. It's like what queer people do when they go into the prison system, for example. You by being more feminine are less likely to be assaulted.
You're using misogyny. You're letting misogyny work for you.
Now, at the time, I wasn't actively thinking that, but that's really where it came from. And I remember my head of year, Mr. McCracken, calling me in and talking about it, and me saying, like, I'm really, really struggling here, sir. Like, I don't know what to do. I've tried all of the different ways. I can't connect with people. I'm just not getting on with school in the way that everyone else is. It's terrible. And I was a kid that regularly thought about topping myself. Like, it was really bad. And their solution was that I went to SU, which was like Scripture Union at the time, that I should actually just try being less myself, try being more like everyone else, try to be more sort of butch, and to go to the religious classes at break times. It felt now only a few years ago, with all of the stuff coming through about conversion therapy and all of the kind of calls to ban it. I really thought to myself, wow, I've never been through a program. I've never been through a system that has intentionally tried to make me straight. But the systems that we are part of, like the school system, did do that to me. And it's did that to so many kids. It's why when the other day we were walking through the town and we seen those two, it actually makes me really emotional, but when we seen those two wee boys from the same school holding hands.
And not just that, but they were in a crowd of their friends.
And all their friends were like kind of...
like rugby boys almost?
Like stereotypical, just like kind of butch...
Teenagers.
Regular boys, and they were all sort of having the crack and all the rest of it, and these two kind of not even camp either, but just two gay boys, because they were holding hands, and they were just sort of walking in the middle of it all, and we sort of, it was in front of Castle Court, and we sort of just passed them. And I really try not to be as a member of any part of our community. I think it's important not to make a big deal of something, not to be like, wow, look at you, you're so different, and like you're like, when we say to trans people or people of colour or whoever else, you're so brave, you're so powerful, you're so whatever else. It's actually there's sometimes a negative impact on that, because it would suggest that you have to be,
and that you've clocked them,
but it took everything in me not to like run back to those kids and just say thank you so much. You don't know what you're given to. Now I'm probably just the older guys, but I'm like, you don't know what you're given, because that is I think it is. It's really like, because I still think about how I walk through the streets. It's like that Pandy Bliss thing that they did years ago in the Abbey Theatre about talking about going to the traffic lights and stopping and checking yourself and thinking, am I too gay? And seeing a group of boys that are very straight and having to stop and check yourself and think, am I too much? Am I going to be attacked? Am I going to be safe? It's that kind of same process walking through the town. So even now I think like that, and I think about those kids just having that confidence and thinking, yeah, fuck it.
And, the thing is, like, as things are getting better, and it's not all doom and gloom, things are getting better. There has never been a safer and a better time to be a woman, to be queer, to be a person of colour, to have a disability. Overall, things are getting much better. But then what happens with that is that as things get better, there's a harder push in the opposite direction, and then you have like the undoing of Roe versus Wade in the States.
Yes.
Now like then we have our own little drum beaters of the past, the DUP trying to undermine and push back opportunities for proper sex education in schools where kids will learn about how to stay safe, and meanwhile we're also then getting abortion legislation, here, which is also going to mean that young people who can get pregnant are not going to ruin their lives, by not having the knowledge that says how they can protect themselves and how they can empower themselves. Consent, we're talking about things like consent now. The number of people who've experienced sexual violence is shocking. And part of the reason for that is because people don't understand what consent means.
The number of people who've experienced sexual violence and do not know it.
Yeah.
The number of people that will tell you a story which is just straight down the line, sexual violence, someone has slipped a condom off or they have acted in some other way and they do not recognise that that's what it is, so they're not accessing the help that they need to access and the services that they should have access to. Things like say you're slipping a condom off. I want kids to know, I want just humans to know that actually you can go and get post-exposure treatment for HIV, that actually that is something that affects all of our community. In fact, if you're straight, it will affect you. You're much more likely to contract that than kind of anyone else really at this point, that you can go to the chemist the next day or for 72 hours afterwards, get post-exposure treatment, that pre-exposure treatment exists for people who are high risk, that there's a way to have that conversation and that it's not just, I remember it was a couple, like, this wasn't really that long, probably was long enough ago now, but the fact that it was like 2 pages, this is how it works, here is this weird line drawn of a vagina, and here's a flaccid cock, and that is all.
There you go, that's you, prepared for the
world.
I
remember the person that took
Go
it,
off and procreate.
the person who took it in our school was this very, I won't name them, but this very sort of nervous person anyways, this man that was like very religious, very geeky, and I swear like it added shame. I didn't really, my parents didn't come with like shame around sex, around that thing. They were always very kind of open about kind of talking about that and like and being safe and all the rest of it. And I remember thinking, is this something that I should be embarrassed about? So it actually it had the opposite effect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, knowledge is power.
Well, we've basically duped you into this fun,
surprise,
happy-go-lucky podcast. But it seems if we're hungover, you just get
you're getting some information.
You just get full depressed.
Yeah, it's like one of our favourite podcasts that exists globally is Very Delta. And Very Delta has this segment that says, do you want to see me go off? Well, we've just had like, do you want to see me go off podcast.
You just seen us go off. Well, that actually leads us in today to speaking about our sponsor. Our sponsor is a lovely man called Billy that does strips of 10 Diazzies for a tenner. And you don't... Guys, you don't get that anymore. You do not get that. So big shout out to Billy. Thank you. He's actually not paying us in money. He's giving us jazzy. So what happened?
That is, and use this code.
Do you know what? Of all things for Connor to say, like that is one thing that, like, even if the doctor were to say, "I'm going to prescribe you some of this product," Connor would have to say, "No, thank you very much." Because very problematic relationship with that in the past.
Just to say it out loud, that is a joke, and that we shouldn't be doing that. In fact, we should really, I think, avoid those types of substances at all costs. Yeah, there are some people that really need them, but if you're when it comes to the street kind of sales of the substances, it is really mega dangerous, deeply dangerous.
Yeah, biggest problem in the country right now for drugs.
Sometimes you walk into the town and it's just people are just zombies, and I get it. People are having a really hard time, and they need to. I've been there. They need to mask that, or they need those substances to kind of get through the day. They think that they do anyways, but it is if I go to the doctor's now, in fact, there's like there's a note if I really need something. If I'm like, I'm really deeply stressed about X, Y, or Z, or I'm trying to think of medical stuff that's happened recently, but things where I'm
It
like,
hasn't been for years.
but
though.
Even relaxants, things like when I was going through my stomach stuff.
Oh yes,
Stuff like that would be recommended, and that I couldn't, through my Google doctoring, I couldn't then suggest certain substances to my doctor, because there's obviously this big red line at the top of my file that says previous problem with substances, don't give them anything.
Yeah. But I think you did that yourself. I think the doctor said to you, like, I can give you some of this. And you were like, nope, I'm not going to have that. And that was progress. You know, that's...
I was in my sort of, I'm telling everyone that I'm an addict stage.
Yeah.
You just get that very occasionally. And I just on the podcast, just to bring you down while we're coming up. But yeah, thank you to our sponsor, Billy.
Which brings us on to our sponsor.
Yes, that would be his tagline. When you're down, we can bring you up. Yeah. Value for money and amazing. I don't know.
The first 40 people.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I feel very muted today. I feel like that's been lovely, though. I think it's actually really quite a nice conversation, and we just don't know where this podcast is going. We would love for it to not depress people. Yeah. Really, in the theme of what we try to do, we try to like bring people up and inspire people to come together and sort of get on board. But sometimes it's nice to talk about these things.
Yeah, I think mental health is always something that we will talk about, you know, like in our experiences of it and what's happening in the country and all the rest of it. You know, I think there's never going to be subjects that we'll shy away from in that respect, you know.
No.
And never be afraid to have an episode like that. You know what I mean? They're the most valuable ones.
Oh.
So we're only allowed one episode.
But you get one per month. The rest of them have to be full gags. Otherwise, you're out.
If there's not like 5 articles in the first 20 minutes, I'm just cutting you off.
Yeah. Well, I haven't even had nurse cam.
I know.
We should.
In fairness, though, like today would not have been a good day for it. Connor made us so much food before we came out. We had a linner.
A lot.
A linner.
We were out early for a couple of meetings, and then we were back in the house, and we just hadn't eaten. So I sometimes do this thing where if I haven't eaten, I want to eat everything. As in, like, we'll have breakfast. What ingredients would you put into a great breakfast? And then I do every single one of them.
Yeah.
And a lot, like kind of like in cooking for our family.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
our
but then
family of 4, but we eat for 2.
Oh, where's your gorgeous ring from?
That was going to be one of my things I showed today, but amazingly, we must have talked through it.
What time are we on? Oh, Seán, you're sitting there like a daddy. Yeah. You know the way. In fact, you're going to be a daddy. Congratulations.
It's like that photo of Joey Tribbiani, you know,
yes!
in the reunion.
That you're sitting there like an Irish daddy. It's just, well, that's the crack.
It's like, see, they've got the Christmas decorations up already and guns.
Yeah. Very that. Well, we're wee granny mushes.
We're on about an hour and 20, or no, an hour and 15 maybe.
We've done an hour and 15. What? Well,
we're chatters.
Do you know what we'll do? We actually did bring our box, and we were going to talk through our things. But I think where we are, I think we can be safe. I think we should be safe to do that
for next week
or save them here. So we'll keep them. If we can rent a shelf in here, we'll take a shelf for Seán's. We'll keep our bits.
Yes, we'll do that with Brona next week.
Yeah, and if anyone is watching this now and is wondering what the hell we're talking about, you can go back and watch your first episode where we explain all about it. But basically, it's where we're going to be. It's called Show and Tell Some Love. Yeah. Because I've spent the week practicing that.
Well done.
Thank you. And basically, we're going to be asking our guests to bring in, or ourselves to bring in, some lovely bits that mean something to us, and we can tell a wee bit of a story about it.
Love it.
Next up on the podcast, we have hopefully Brona Diamond, if we can pin her down. She's currently jet setting somewhere, being an international celebrity and comedian. So she's away doing that, but as soon as we can get her, we're going to get her in. And we this week have made a load of bookings, like really exciting ones. So we are very excited to have a guest in, and also to show you kind of this expands. It actually not very much, but it does get bigger. So
big set energy.
We've said that before, but it's lovely, and we sort of can't wait to show you. Another thing we're going to do as well is last week we spoke about Eugene the tiger. Is actually bring Eugene in. We're going to just before we run into the house.
He was fast asleep, couldn't be arsed.
Fast asleep and covered in he's actually, you know, it's awful to say this out loud, but he's so big in our tiny house that we sort of put him Harry Potter style below
In
the
cupboard under the
stairs.
stairs.
How dare you?
I know, so he might have been
Well, he's
dusty or whatever.
hibernating.
Yeah, and there's a big sort of thing in front of it. So we'll do that next week. We'll bring him in, we'll give him a hoover, and we'll give him a wee wish.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, Seán. It's been
Thank you.
an absolute pleasure.
Yes, and keep your feedback coming. Give us your comments. Tell us what you want to hear more of or less of.
Queers around the corner.
Queers around the corner. Give us some letters. We can't wait to hear them. And make sure that you like and subscribe and tell your friends and ring the bell and share on social medias and all the rest of it as well.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next Friday at 6 o'clock, probably around then.
Yes, all the queers.